All right. This week nothing's due because everybody's working on their lit review. And normally I do spend one class working with all of the students to help them with the lit review. So with that being said, we are going to do updates. We're going to look at our schedule on the syllabus. I'm going to look at this week's assignments, um, and next week's. And I'm going to take questions, and then we're going to spend time. I can help you edit whatever you're working on if you're ready for that. If not, that's okay too. And if you're not present or synchronous, um, and you need help with your lit review, we have plenty of time for me to still help you, and I'd be happy to make an appointment and work with you and help you edit and give you suggestions. So, just email me and let me know, and we'll make an appointment, and I'll be happy to work with you on it. Um, so let's look at the syllabus before we talk more about that. See where we are. Just because it's such a short semester, um, I just want to make sure we're all literally on the same page. So let's see. All right. So technically, is this week 4? Yeah. Uh, so week 4, there's nothing due. And I'm going to show you what we have to view the lectures on those 2 chapters. Now, here's the thing. If we look at week 5, that's next Thursday. Okay. So next Thursday, um, a lot is due. The lit review, rough draft. Now it says and lit review editing. That just means I'd be happy to edit it with you. We could either do it during class time or you can make an appointment, but it's a lot easier if I give you the grade while we edit it together so that, and you don't have to turn the lit review back in if we edit it. You just need to edit it for the final paper, so you'll have time to edit it. But it's a lot easier rather than me typing out all the feedback, and maybe you'd have questions with it if we just talk about it. So if possible, we should talk about it, and so you'll get for full credit, and so your final paper will not have any problems. Um, the acronyms, we're going to go over the acronyms, and there's a lecture on acronyms, but uh, acronyms I think is fun. It's like, what are you going to name your model? And I know I said like, a comprehensive model that treats such and such, but maybe you want to name it something that each letter turns into like an acronym or a word, you know. Um, so that's up to you. Um, but there's no Dropbox for acronyms. Okay. It's just something, if you want, you can watch the lecture on acronyms. You can come up with a cool acronym for your model. Like, I'm trying to think of an old one. They didn't like REBT. It doesn't really sound like a word. It's just the first letter of the of the model words. Um, but it's nicer if it forms a word. Like we've had students come up with models. One was called CALM, CALM, and I forget what each letter stood for, but um, you know, uh, let's see. Yeah, there. but you'll see. Okay. So the reason you don't have, I opened up week 5, but nothing is due until next Thursday. Okay. The reason I opened it up is because that's where the Dropbox is for your lit review. So if you get it done early, like before next Thursday, and you want to put it in the Dropbox, you can. That's why it's open. Nothing's due until next Thursday. Okay. And I believe next, what is next Thursday? Is that the 12th, I think? I think so. So I think these are the due dates, actually. All right, I tried to set it up that way. So if you even want a time, the time would be like, 5 o'clock next Thursday. All right. Um, let's see what else. And after that, so we've got next week when the lit reviews due. But after that, we've only got 2 more weeks to the class, which is a little crazy to me. You know, it's a lot. And we're going to discuss everything for the rest of the paper next week and week 6. And then you've got a lot due that very last week, which is, you know, I call it an article here. It's your final written paper. It's your needs assessment is due and a PowerPoint presentation. And there's a lecture on how to do each one of those. So, all right, that's our timeline. And now I want to show you the content, which is basically, let's see, I'll do it from a student's perspective. All right, so all right, so this is week 4. This is what is tonight. And we've got a lecture on the methods and results, paper definition section. There's 2 parts to the methods. There's, here's the lecture on the needs assessment and the needs assessment assignment. Okay. All right, let's see. From my perspective, that there. All right. And this is week 5, so I'm going to open up week 5 as well. And week 5, which is next week. So So how to evaluate the lit review, which you would have just written. Evaluating the results section. You're not going to have any results, but you need to know how to do it anyway. And then here's the Dropbox where you put your lit review in week 5. And it's just a normal Dropbox. All right. Let's see where I have the acronyms. Final poster, evaluating discussion, acronyms, and model. All right. Maybe I'll put those in week 5 just because we don't have a lot of time. So I'll open that up too. Okay. All right. Let's see what else. Yeah. So, all right. The first thing is, are there any questions from last week's lectures? on any of those sections of the book.
You refresh my memory. Why do you need for standard deviation? Why do you need to memorize 34, 14, and 2?
Okay, the question is, why do you have to memorize those numbers for standard deviation? So it's actually like, point something. So I rounded them off to the closest primary number. And then the reason you have to memorize it's only three numbers, but it's three positive numbers and three negative numbers. Okay. And so it's either side. And because there's going to be a question on standard deviation on the comps, and it's going to give you a number, and it's going to say, what's two standard deviations above or below this number, the norm? And if you memorize those little percentages, it's easy to figure out. You'll come close because it gives you four possible answers, A, B, C, D. And if you memorize those little percentages, you'll be able to figure it out in your head or get close to it so you can guess. Yeah. So you've only got like a couple minutes for each one, for each question on the comps and the NCE. So you want to weigh how long it's going to take you to answer each one. So that's like a MANOVA. Like you don't have time to figure that out. So if you're gonna guess totally on one question, an ANOVA or no, that whole section, like that would take way too long to figure out. But a standard deviation, you can figure those percentages out in your head and come close to A, B, C, or D. That's why. So that chapter that question is about, that's the hardest chapter in the book, you know. But that's what's going to be on the comps and the NCE. That and some vocabulary like, you know, mean median mode, uh, you know, what is validity, reliability, those are always on the comps. Um, Standard deviation, maybe a t-score or a z-score, you converting one to the other. I gave you the little formula for that. You can do that in your head. But how's everybody feel online about that chapter? That was the tough chapter, basically.
It was hard, but like I read Rosenthal's like book, like that chapter specifically, so I felt like I was like kind of familiar with it, but I feel like between your notes and like his stuff, like I'm feeling a lot better on it.
Yeah, so it's been a long time since I read the Encyclopedia of Counseling. I had that 20 years ago. Oh, more than 20 years ago, 1994. 30 years ago, I guess. Stressing me out here. All right, so but yeah, so if you combine like the notes for each of our classes, not just research, but notes for all the classes in our curriculum and combine that with Rosenthal, that's enough. Yeah, should be enough. That combo. And you've also got the notes for this class as well. All right. Well, that's good. Um, so uh I think the only other thing I just want to highlight in case, you know, anybody's just starting that lit review a little late. So let's just kind of highlight some of your resources here one more time. So you go to week 1, you've got, and there's lectures each week on different sections of the lit review. But Remember, the first part is the final paper outline, and you just have to start with the title page and go down to the end of the lit review. And each one of these parts of the outline, like population, that's what the title of that section should be on your paper. Just call it the problem, subtitle, population, you know. And then you can kind of put your paper beside Jen's paper. And so that's what the title page looks like. That's what the abstract looks like. This is all in APA format. She did a pretty good job with that. This is the intro, the significance of her problem. And then the different sections of the lit review. And you can copy her sections. Her sections aren't exactly like the sections in that final paper outline, but they're really close enough. So history. Then we have our research questions. What's been done? And then she's got the different models that have been tried. What seems to be working? What hasn't worked? What may work from other areas in the field? And what has yet to be used that maybe hasn't? And that's it. That's the end. Maybe a summary, maybe like a 1-paragraph little summary of that section of the lit review. That's it. Let's see if I have something else. Yeah, that's as far as you need to go. All right. So any questions about the lit review?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So you want us to turn it in before class, and then when we come to class next week, like we might have time to work on it with you? Is that like what you meant?
So you have a choice. If you feel stuck, like maybe you're having a problem with one of the sections in the lit review, and you don't think you're going to be able to do it on your own, I'll help you with it before it's due so that you can get it done by next Thursday. But if you're able to write the whole thing and you hand it in, then I can go over it with you as I grade it. And that way I can tell you any corrections that you need to make for your final paper.
Okay.
Does that
Because I
make
feel
sense?
like we'll probably be able to like write it all, but obviously like we'll need the feedback maybe like after we write it. So that
Yeah.
would
So
probably,
either way, yeah, either way is good. And it's just, the final paper, you won't have time to fix it if something, like if you skipped a section or, you missed something or whatever. So you won't have time to fix that final paper to get a, full credit.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so if I just give you feedback, next week or the week after, sometime before you're handing in that final paper, you'll have time to fix it and make changes and get full credit.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Um, Let me stop recording because, like I said, normally we have one class, and like I'm used to teaching this face to face or synchronously, but doesn't matter. We usually have one class to work on the project, and there are lectures online for the topics in the book. But I'm going to stop recording. We can work on anything in your lit review. You can work with each other. If you're on your own and you don't have any questions, that's fine. You don't have to stick around. But it's a little shorter as far as me talking tonight, but there are longer lectures online that you need to watch for the book. But Yeah, and if you're watching the recording asynchronously and you need help, please just email me and I'll find a time to meet with you. All right.